you know, sometimes I need a reality check. I mean, I'm but flesh and blood. I get gear acquisition syndrome and FOMO, and I'm like all those things. And so sometimes I just sit down and fiddle with the Helix and remind myself, like, hey, do I really need something else, or is this still doing exactly what I need it to do? And I think it still does exactly what I need it to do. I was fiddling around and I made another heavy metal tone because I'm I don't have very many dimensions. Sorry. But if I don't do a metal tone, somebody will bitch about that too. But if I do anything other than a metal tone, I hear about that as well. So, I was feeling this particular tone because, again, I was having a moment, and I'm like, do I really need a Helix Stadium? Do I want one? Yes. Do I need one? I'd say no. But I was working on just coming up with tones, which is what I do. It's another way that I procrastinate and put off the things that I really need to do. But that being said, I think I came up with a cool tone. I'll share it with you guys. It's using all stock stuff inside of Helix. I only used one path inside of Helix Rack, so I think in theory you should be able to run this on HX Stomp. Don't quote me, don't be pissed off if it doesn't. I apologize, but as far as my understanding goes, if I use one path in the full-size stuff, it shouldn't matter. It should still work on HX Stomp. A little bit of backstory: this is using all Helix. This is stock Helix stuff. No third-party impulse responses. So we're using the dual cab block inside of Helix. I should probably start my screen capture. We're using the dual cab block inside of Helix. We're using the 4x12 CarTog GUV, which, according to the information on the interweb, we got that in Helix firmware version 3.8, and it is a cartographer cabinet, modified Lee Jackson 4x12 with Eminence governor speakers. So that's what we're using. This is kind of the first time I used it, and actually when I started this preset, I had my typical, my go-to, what do I usually, I typically use the 4x12 Uber T75. And I just decided to try something different this morning as I was getting ready to record this, and I liked the way this sounded better. So yeah, I've been blathering. Let's dive into a Helix patch in 2026. Is it still all it's cracked up to be? I think so. But let's dig in. So, what do we got going on here? Now, there's a couple things we're going to go over. The intention of this video was a heavy metal preset, again, inside of Helix. More modern sounding, I would say. I think maybe I'm getting away from the super modern stuff. But you guys can be the judge, and you will, of that. But one thing I was trying to do is figure out ways to control the low end inside of Helix, and there's a couple different ways. There's several different ways, and I'm going to kind of go through that. We're going to be using a combination of compression, the 3-band compressor, and also just splitting, using the split crossover to send the low end of the tone through its own compressor and while untouching the stuff above the crossover. So that's what we'll do. Let's just, let me fiddle with this a little bit again. This is a LTD Viper Baritone with Fishman Fluence Modern pickups in it. It's a Fishman Fluence Modern in the bridge, and this is a Willie Adler in the neck. I don't really use the Willie Adler. Not the biggest fan of it. But we're just going to be riffing on the bridge pickup. So Fishman Fluence Moderns, that's kind of my go-to. And let's go over the preset. We'll start with the amp. I'm not using the Badunk today. We're using the Revgen Purple. So yeah, something a little bit different. All right, so yeah, we're using the Revgen Purple. I'm gonna go over the settings real quick because it's kind of the thing I do, but again, I'll share this with you and leave you access to it in some way, shape, or form for those of you who are too lazy to do it yourself. So I have the drive set at 2.5, the bass set at 4.1, the mid set at 5.6, the treble set at 4.3, the presence is at 1.7, the channel volume I have at 10, but again, that's going to depend on your setup, so fiddle with that. The master is at 5.5. The resonance I have at 7.2. The aggression is at 1. The sag is at 5. The hum is at 5. The ripple is at 5. The bias is at 6.5. Bias X is at 3.5. The Scream 808 going into it, I have the gain set to 0. The tone is down at 3.5, and I have the level at 10. Then, again, we're using the 4x12 CarTog GUV. That's with those Eminence Governor speakers. We're using the dual cab because I want to do the two mic thing, right? The blending of the two mics. So I have a SM57 at the 45-degree angle. The position is 3.5. The distance is 1 inch, which I believe is right up on the virtual grill of the cab. The low cut is set to 45 Hertz. The high cut is set to 9.9K. The level I have at minus 4.6, just kind of bringing the overall level down for both of them. The pan is at center, and there is no delay for this for the SM57. Then we're using the same cab with a different mic, the 121 ribbon. That's a Royer 121, or an emulation of. The position is at 4. The distance is at 3 inches. The angle is at 45 degrees for that microphone. I have the low cut at 45, the high cut up to 16K. The level is at 0 for that. The pan is at center, and I have a 0.04 millisecond delay for this particular microphone, and we'll see what that's doing. You can hear the difference. This is with it, and I'll switch it to with no delay in a second. We go no delay. Now with the delay, I could be introducing phase, but to me, to my ears, it sounds more pleasant with that 0.04 millisecond delay. So here's again nothing, and then I'll move up to that spot. That's 0.02. That's 0.04. I feel like if it is a phase thing, it's doing something pleasant with the high end that I like, so. The argument could be made that 0.02 sounds pretty fucking good too. put it to auto, it sounds like it might be going to 0.04. Definitely not. So that's interesting. See, now I'm wondering if 0.02 sounds better. 0.02 milliseconds might have a little bit of that high-end fuzz and fizz that a lot of people like to bitch about when it comes to modelers. I think we're gonna pivot, boys. I think we're gonna go 0.02. I kind of like how the low end's a little bit tighter, and that's playing into like the rest of what I was kind of doing with this. So this first snapshot, I have no compression of any kind. You'll see I do have a split here, and it is splitting. It's the split crossover. I have it at 150 hertz. So what that means is path B, 150 hertz and below of the guitar tone is going through path B, you know, or this secondary path. Right now it's not doing anything because I don't have any compressors on, okay? I do have this EQ at the end, which is taking out some, it's taking out a bit at, let's see, 305 hertz. It's, I'm subtracting, I have a mid EQ, like, I mean like a middle of the road kind of EQ. Not super wide, it's at 5, so it's not super tight and it's not super wide. Minus 4.2 dB there, and then at 5.6K I found some whistles, or a major whistle that I'm getting rid of, with a high Q of 9, and I'm subtracting 2.4 dB there, and well, I'll turn it off and you can hear what that's doing. I think it cleans it up a little bit. To your ears, you know, you might want to do something different. So the beautiful thing is you can turn that off if you want. So that EQ is going to be on the whole time. I'm setting everything into that, even after the room reverb, just to catch everything. So again, this is that tone with no compression. And think about, kind of like I was saying, trying to control the low end, at least the palm mutes, you know, when they get a little, if they're building in a mix, that's going to create a lot of flubbiness, and you know, it helps to kind of get rid of some of that before recording, I guess, you know. And you can see the EQ bump. It's around 100. So the first snapshot, I have the 3-band compressor on. So again, I have this set up. Yes, I have the split crossover here, but I don't have this doing anything, and all the levels are the same coming back into it. So it's basically unaffected coming back here to the 3-band EQ, right? Or the 3-band compressor. And we're getting a little more control of the low end, right? So if I switch back. Just kind of tightening that up, right? And you can see that represented in the EQ curve there, and hopefully with your ear balls. If you're listening on anything other than headphones, you're kind of wasting your time, or you're wasting both of our times. So listen on something worth a damn, and you should be able to hear this stuff, because it is subtle to a degree. And we'll bring that 3-band compressor back in. And basically what I'm doing is it's not affecting any other frequency. I have the low crossover at 150 hertz. The low threshold is set to -25.1, and it's going to depend on your setup, your guitar, how you play, in regards to the threshold. So I would say it's doing, the reduction it's doing is maybe 3 to 4 dB for the low end. Again, everything below 150 hertz. Sorry about that. And again, without. So it's just tightening things up. It's just controlling that low end a little bit more. Now, Snapshot 3, we're utilizing the split crossover this time. And again, I'm just doing this to kind of demonstrate a few different methods of doing this, right? So we're utilizing the split crossover here. The 3-band compressor is off. And everything below 150 hertz, that's where the crossover is set, is being affected by this studio comp. And I kind of tried to match the overall gain reduction of the low end. So. And this is without anything. And then split crossover with the LA Studio comp. And now I'll kind of run between that and the 3-band compressor. It sounds like I might have a little more overall gain with the 3-band, so let's bring that down just a touch. Let's bring that down to like 3 instead of 3.3. So this is utilizing that split crossover. Very sloppy. So that's 2 ways, and it's definitely controlling that low end. And we're able to kind of compress the low end and get a little more control of it, and maybe bump it up just a touch, so you can maybe get away with a little more overall low end. And since you're compressing it when it gets a little unwieldy with your palm mutes, you know, you might be able to get some more perceived low end. But it sounds more controlled with those palm mutes. Snapshot 4, instead of using any compression to control the low end, we're using a shelf EQ. And I have the low frequency set at 550 hertz. So this is kind of varying a little bit from the way I had the compressor set up. So I have a low shelf at 550, subtracting 1 dB, and then the high gain is set at 550, and we're boosting 2 dB. And so this is what this sounds like. Nothing. And the shelf EQ. It might be bringing up a little bit too much of that high gain, so let's do 1 dB. And again, you can see in the frequency response that it's definitely controlling that low end. And you can fiddle with the high end to your liking with the high gain kind of control there. Yeah, and the reason why I used those is because with the tilt EQ, I have the center frequency of the tilt EQ at 550. So those of you who don't know what a tilt EQ is, the center frequency is kind of the pivot point of the EQ, and we have that set at 550, and the tilt is set to bright 16, meaning it's brightening things up. So while at the same time it's going up on the bright side, or the high side of 550, the low side of 550 is going down. That's kind of how a tilt EQ works. So you're not notching out frequencies, but you're just lowering the perceived, the volume of things below 550 and boosting things above 550. It's just another way of doing it. You can, like we did with the low and high shelf, we have it basically set the same way. It's just another method. With the low and high shelf, you get a little more granular control. You can just boost the high end shelf. It's not tied to one another. You can control them independently. So this is the tilt EQ. And nothing. Tilt EQ. So that sounded pretty tight. Again, maybe a little too bright for some people. You can control that. We go to like 10. And then, so for Snapshot 6, which some of you, I think you're not going to have access to this on the Stomp, so there's something to think about. I have a combination of the tilt EQ and the 3-band compressor. So again, we're controlling some of that low end. and high end with the tilt, remember, at 550 hertz, and we're also just compressing the low end. So let's see how that sounds. And again, just experimenting. Again, that's something you might want to fiddle with. It might be a little too bright, but then we're kind of getting to the point where we're not really using the tilt EQ. Again, just a few different methods of utilizing this. So this is using the tilt EQ, right? And we'll go back to, let's go back to 10 on the tilt EQ. This is combining the tilt EQ with the split crossover and compressing the, everything below the 150 hertz of the split crossover. And this last one is, so I have the shelf, the low and high shelf. We're not using the tilt EQ, and I don't have any compression on. So if we were to utilize this, remember again, this is just with that low and high shelf on. And if we were to utilize maybe that 3-band EQ in conjunction with it, now I know it's not sounding as boom-bastic and low end, and it's not going to make you poop with all that low end or anything like that, but here's the thing, when you're recording layered guitars, double tracking or quad tracking, all that low end's going to build up, so you have to take that into consideration. And a lot of the times I'm making presets with the end goal in mind, recording, so that's kind of why things sound and the way they do, and why I do them the way I do them. So again, if we were to utilize the low and high shelf in this instance, in conjunction with the split crossover at 150 hertz and the LA Studio Comp controlling the low end that way, and then this is what that would sound like. Sanity check, we go back to nothing, just the tone itself. You can see that low end kind of bouncing up a lot higher than it was with anything else. Let's introduce the 3-band EQ, the 3-band compressor, sorry. The split crossover with the LA2A compressing 150 hertz and below. This is the shelf EQ with no compression. A little more subtle. Tilt EQ, right? I think originally I had this at 15. And we might want to utilize some of that 3-band compressor there to get a little more control of the low end. So, I mean, there's several different ways to skin a cat, right? I'm trying to feel like, which one do I like the most? It's tough to say. Again, no compression. I feel like the low end's a little bit out of control. And that could be because of the way I have the amp set up, right? With that resonance all the way up. But if I feel like if I bring it down, yes, we don't have as much low end, but something happens to the mid frequencies that I'm missing. So that's why I had that resonance up where it was. And I opted to control the low end with one of these different methods. This is the 3-band compressor, which might just be the easiest route to go, honestly. Then you don't need that second path or anything. But I think that the combination of the Revgen Purple and this the CarTog GUV cab, it's pretty brutal, man. It's pretty awesome sounding. I'm enjoying it. So again, you know, the Helix is still doing everything I could ask of it. It still sounds good to me. I've been using it for a long, long time now, of course. So, do I need a new device? I don't think so. It's still, again, doing exactly what I want. I think, my opinion is, we're at the point where all of these modelers sound so damn good, and all of these plugins sound really good. We live in an era where it's hard to not get a really cool guitar tone. Now, whether or not those guitar tones sound our own, or if we're just kind of trying to mimic a lot of other people, you know, I don't know. And I'm sure I'll catch criticism for sounding the way I sound. But in my head, I'm trying to kind of bridge a gap between a modern metal tone, which is like very articulate and clean, for lack of a better word, and like kind of maybe 90s Swedish metal, or just some real saturated stuff. And you know, even with this particular preset, I only have the drive at 2.5. Now again, we have the aggression setting at 1 for that Revgen Purple, but you could probably get away without the aggression at all. But I'm kind of waffling at this point. The Helix still kind of rules, man. And even to this point, again, this is the first time I've really used this cab model, and it sounds great. So don't sleep on, I mean, it's hard to go through everything inside of these modelers, right? But sometimes a lot of fun can be had going through your different amps that you have at your disposal and the different cabs, and experimenting like I did with the mic placement. Experiment with the positions. Again, some of the best EQ moves you can make is moving these microphones around. Experiment with the angle, the 0 degree and the 45 degree. Mess around with that delay. You never know what it might introduce in a pleasant way to your tone. So yeah, I think that's it. I wanted to kind of actually make some actual Helix content and guitar tone stuff. I've been doing a few live streams lately, which has been really nice and enjoyable, and it's been awesome seeing a lot of the old gang from the way back times when I used to do a lot more regular live streaming. So that's been nice. I've been really kind of having a little bit more, I've been craving a little more positive community vibes. So that's where the live streams have been coming in so much. And yeah, that's been great. But we got to make regular videos too, apparently. So again, I'll provide this Helix preset for you. Some of you guys might not be able to use it. If you're on an HX Stomp, I realize, you know, kind of as we're doing this, while I might be within the block constraints, you're not going to be able to utilize all of these snapshots. I just filled it up mainly because I was fiddling around, right? And I just wanted to switch between snapshots. I got the floor control here. So if you run into any issues loading it on something other than a Helix rack or a Helix floor, apologies. I don't know if you'll be able to load it up and just not be able to use those snapshots, but I'm blathering at this point, guys. If you found this helpful, you know, do what you want to do. Otherwise, yeah, well, I'll find something else useful to talk about for the next one. So in the meantime, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself, be useful to someone, and let's take care of one another, okay? Bye, guys. Not bad.